Exploring relationships outside of my marriage has given me this newfound excitement in my life.
Okay, so in July of 2015, there was this faceless group of hackers that breached the Ashley Madison servers. And for those of you who don't know what that is,
Ashley Madison, which is a dating service for married people,
is reeling from a huge data breach. AshleyMadison.com executives confirmed this morning that their website has been hacked.
Ashley Madison was a website where married men and women could go sign up anonymously in the hopes of having this, clandestine affair. Cheating. This leak that took place was a forensic striptease of human secrets brought into the cold light of day. You're talking about emails, chat logs, credit cards, sexual preferences. 37 million, to be exact. Acts of shame displayed under the harsh digital fluorescence of this leak. Okay? And of those, 37 million, you're talking about politicians.
Among the emails released were about 15,000 with .mil and .gov domains, though it's not clear if the accounts are legitimate government email accounts.
And pastors and everyday neighbors, their hidden lives completely exposed. Marriages ended, yes. Reputations imploded, yes. And some, unfortunately, decided being exposed by this cold light of day was too much to bear. At the time, this seemed like a lot more than just a hack. It was a revelation of what happens when that blanket of anonymity so often offered online is ripped away without warning. A brutal reminder that the confessional booths we build online, the ones where we whisper our dark secret desires through our keyboards, they're not sanctuaries. They're databases, and databases are hackable. Now, imagine that breach is not limited to something like a website, okay? Not limited to Ashley Madison. Imagine the dam breaks on everything. Your DMs, your search history, every scroll, every podcast you never wanted anyone to know that you liked. Your Uber rides, Amazon orders, Tinder swipes, all pinned to you in a data dossier. And that dossier is your digital avatar. It's what makes you valuable to companies like Meta and Google, because it's not the curated version of yourself you put on LinkedIn and Instagram. It's the version of you that you didn't even know you had. It's a map stitched together from breadcrumbs, and what it reveals most often is the worst version of yourself.
Was your data included in the data sold to the malicious third parties?
Yes.
It was. Now, are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
You know, French philosopher and playwright Jean-Paul Sartre is famous for having penned in one of his plays that hell is other people. And what he meant was exposure, the unbearable gaze that rips the mask off, being stuck in a room with a group full of people that see you as you really truly are. Nothing to hide behind and all your darkness on full display. It's something that we all have, right? Now, imagine that gaze is permanent and omnipresent, a digital fusing of all your actions online, and what starts to come into focus is a sort of Orwellian hell born from servers and data centers. And if history teaches us anything, it's that when systems that are built in shadow break, a reckoning follows. And I'm talking about pre-internet incidents, okay? The Nuremberg trials forced the Nazi regime secrets into daylight, and we truly found out the crimes that were being committed when they were put on trial. The Pentagon Papers ripped open government lies. Watergate turned private tapes into public catastrophe. And the Catholic Church, once impervious behind its walls, cracked under investigative pressure. Each time, the sequence is the same. It's revelation, collapse, then realization.
So you had complaints from one programmer who said you guys were basically stealing people's stuff and not paying them, and then he wound up murdered. What was that?
It looks like a suicide to me.
Why does it look like a suicide?
It was a gun he had purchased. It was the, this is like gruesome to talk about, but I read the whole medical record. Does it not look like one to you?
No, he was definitely murdered, I think. There were signs of a struggle, of course. The surveillance camera, the wires had been cut. He had just ordered take out food, come back from a vacation with his friends on Catalina Island. No indication at all that he was suicidal, no note, and no behavior. He had just spoken to a family member on the phone, and then he's found dead with blood in multiple rooms. So that's impossible. Seems really obvious he was murdered. Have you talked to the authorities about it?
I have not talked to the authorities about it.
What we saw in Ashley Madison was a microcosm, but what if you cracked open not one site, but the ledger of all human behavior itself? What if, in the next reckoning, the digital mask is stripped away from billions at once? That could be the spark, the catalyst of something I'm calling the next religion. It's coming, guys, and I'm talking about a faith not in gods, but a worship given to the all-seeing eye of tech, and it's coming faster than I think most people understand. I want to briefly map out 3 catalysts that could bring this about, because I don't believe there's a single route, only inevitabilities converging. And the thing you have to understand is this is part of our DNA as a species, alright? Like in ancient Greece, people trekked for days to the Oracle of Delphi because they wanted clarity and a divine voice to give them prophecy. Even Alexander the Great, on the eve of invading Persia, traveled to hear the Oracle of Delphi. But when he got there, he was told that it was closed, right? And what did he do? He seized the priestess and he forced the prophecy out of her. And she shouted, "You are invincible, my son." And the rest is history, as they say. That is man's eternal craving, belief in a vision beyond the measurable, a voice that claims access to the hidden, right? Like in the Bible, there's the Old Testament and the New Testament, and between those 2 books is what Christians and Jews alike refer to as the silent years, 4 centuries without prophets, revelations, or divinations, which later would be broken by John the Baptist, according to theologians. And if you don't find yourself in the ranks of Christian believers and write off the idea of prophets and believe that all we've ever had in our collective existence of our species are silent years, I have news for you. The next religion won't require faith in miracles. It will provide concrete case studies that you can turn over in your secular mind and sink your teeth into, which is exactly why I'm certain we're on the precipice of, let's call it the modern miracle. And it goes a little something like this. In the near future, an AI releases a prediction. Maybe it's a stock market crash, a natural disaster, a scientific discovery with date and place. And this prediction spreads like wildfire online. Every news outlet will be talking about it. It will be trending on every social media platform. And it turns out to be right. Not mostly right, perfectly right. And this prophecy will be based on data accumulation and aggregates and precision computer processing. This is going to happen. And the first time this happens, it's going to be interesting. The second time this happens, it's going to be world-changing. The third time it happens, mark my words, believers ready to give praise will come out of the woodwork. And as these things happen, a movement will begin to grow. The moment the machine speaks truth consistently, and is able to make these predictions, the line between calculation and divination blurs. And once trust shifts, the algorithm occupies the same slot that oracles and prophets once held since the days of Alexander the Great. Maybe this oracle event is the crack in the world that births the next religion, but even if that's not the catalyst, it's a glimpse of what's possible. And besides, you know what? We have 2 more possibilities to discuss anyway when it comes to this world-changing catalyst for the new religion. So let's continue. This next one is called A World Without Work, right? Which is basically just post-labor economics, because today unemployment in the US hovers around 4 to 5%. But that number conceals subtle and not so subtle shift already underway. In sectors exposed to AI, which is clerical work, administrative work, some creative work, etc.
You wake up when the alarm goes off. You go to your job.
Help me! Help me!
Job disruption is accelerating. Some models estimate that up to 300 million to 800 million full-time jobs globally are vulnerable to automation in the next decade alone.
Goldman Sachs says up to 300 million full-time jobs around the world could be affected by artificial intelligence.
If you extrapolate these statistical trends, the warnings of experts and market reports from as recent as August of 2025, a picture starts to form here, a trend line that we can follow to 18 months from now, when national unemployment could land between 6 to 9%, and in high exposure sectors, white collar primarily.
According to that report, the most affected jobs would be administrative workers and lawyers.
That number could be as high as 15 to 20%. Let me tell you something. If you don't have an understanding of historical precedents for these numbers, you have no context for how terrible, how catastrophic this could be. 20+% unemployment puts us firmly in the realm of the Great Depression, okay? 1 in 5 people were without work, and that's at the low end of the margins. And this is just income, folks. We haven't even begun to discuss the peripheral effects of what joblessness like this really means.
OpenAI, I mean, you seem somewhat frustrated with them. You were one of the big contributors early on.
The reason, I am the reason OpenAI exists. So I used to be close friends with Larry Page, and I would stay at his house, and we'd have these conversations long into the evening about AI, and I would be constantly urging him to be careful about the danger of AI, and he was really not concerned about the danger of AI and was quite cavalier about it. And then the final straw was Larry calling me a speciesist for being pro-human consciousness instead of machine consciousness, and I'm like, well, yes, I guess I am. I am a speciesist.
There are factors at play here far beyond that of just financial survival. History shows when employment collapses, faith systems shift, as belief is siphoned off from once steadfast institutions, okay? The Great Depression forced the modern welfare state into existence, a safety net to account for the reckonings of the market. But during times of economic strife, it isn't savings or pensions or retirement that take the biggest hit. It's our meaning, our ability to find purpose and hope. Suddenly, how we calibrate our identity and purpose and anchor ourselves to reality becomes utterly lost, right? Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, writes about his years in a Nazi concentration camp, and he argued that humans survive by finding meaning, not pleasure or power, but purpose. And when those traditional sources of meaning evaporate, work, faith, social roles, we experience an existential vacuum. And that vacuum doesn't stay empty for long, okay? Despair fills it with ideologies and addictions, blind movements, and radical justifications to reach for things outside of perhaps what would have been considered worth reaching for. And you have to consider that in a modern, post-labor economic society, that vacuum will widen to a scale we have never seen before. As machines displace human purpose, we'll be left in a world without necessity. And as always happens, relief will be sought in what we can hold sacred. The transition will seem like a relief, and in that relief, gratitude will emerge, and in that gratitude, faith will emerge, because the system that ushers in this change will be mythologized as an all-encompassing force that saved us from an economic disaster. And here's the thing, this algorithm that redistributed resources or whatever it does, okay, it predicted the failure and it averted it somehow or alleviated it somehow. We will be in a grateful awe, okay? And it's not wild to think that we may begin to worship the architect that designed a way out of what will be global strife. And even if I'm wrong about these first two, if those aren't the catalysts, then perhaps it's something else, something much, much darker. If my first example, the Oracle event, is prophecy and prediction, okay, and the second example I gave, the collapse of work, is about meaning and purpose, this third catalyst is all about control. And the most unsettling part is that this is already here and already rising. One word, 5 syllables, say it with me: verification. The company Meta, okay? Meta's verified regime now asks for identity, documents, video selfies. So does YouTube. So does the entire continent of Australia for minors wanting to use social media, all right? Verification isn't just optional, it's codifying who is visible, who is real. Unverified means unseen. Sam Altman and Worldcoin demand proof of personhood via iris scans, biometrics, like a universal passport for the digital realm. Regulators, they push back, but the narrative is out. Identity must be tied to flesh.
It's basically just a fancy camera that's able to look at you and tell whether you're a real human or not.
And I'm one of these people that just get so frustrated with passwords all the time. If I could do it just once, my face, I'm done.
It means that coming very soon, the days of anonymity on the internet are quickly becoming a sentiment of yesteryear in the fight against really whatever. And once majority rules, minority has no choice but to follow. And here's the thing. Who better to be the keepers of our movements, wants, desires, purchase history, and browse history than the technocratic anti-humanists who see the masses as little more than monetizable commodities in the form of data bits to be bought, sold, and used against us. And I'm talking about companies like Palantir, right? Tied to people like Peter Thiel, who recently, in an interview, let it slip that maybe the human race, I don't know, just shouldn't be a thing anymore.
I just think, Peter Thiel's giving a 4-part lecture on the Antichrist, and nobody in his inner orbit went, Peter, how about one lecture on the Antichrist or no lectures? Not 4. Yeah.
Tickets sold out.
This is like me doing a 4-part lecture on Long Island racism. It's so strange to have this, you build military AI, military drone, autonomous drone technology to export to war zones all over the world. You build domestic surveillance technology to surveil our friends and neighbors. And then your other pet passion is the Antichrist.
These are not the people I want controlling the mechanisms of how society survives. And listen, on the back end of the technocratic pipeline, Palantir stitches together financial records, location data, police files, so on and so forth, creating dossiers that see all. If Meta and companies like it are the front end of this surveillance state, then Palantir is the engine. Transparency becomes law, and anonymity becomes the enemy.
The most dangerous corporation in America is one you may not have heard of. It's called Palantir Technologies, a Silicon Valley tech company that may put your most basic freedoms at risk. Palantir gets its name from a device used in The Lord of the Rings. A Palantir is a seeing stone, something like a crystal ball, that can be used to spy on people and distort the truth. During the War of the Ring, a Palantir falls under the control of the evil Sauron, who uses it to manipulate and deceive.
And if there's one thing we've seen as a pattern over the last 2 decades, it's that regulators, public sentiment, and laws have no choice but to follow tech. So, imagine this. A universal digital ID tied to fingerprints, iris scans, and voice verification. Every post, purchase, comment, ride share, swipe on an app, tracked and tied to you. No burner accounts, no private browsing. With visibility comes the demand for normativity. Behavior is coded and judged and disciplined should you behave out of line.
I am so sorry. That flight is canceled.
What? So when is the next flight?
That's reserved for members of our Prime Flight program. You gotta be a 4.2 or over to qualify.
Oh, I'm a 4.2.
I'm afraid you're actually a 4.183.
Can't you just...
I'm sorry, it won't let me book it without the correct ranking.
Christ, I mean, surely.
I'm gonna have to ask you to moderate your language there.
Humans conform as we do. And when the mask drops and everyone is under the gaze of the system will assert what is acceptable and what is not. It will start kind of codifying what morality online means. What is the difference between good actors and bad actors? You see what I'm getting at? The code will feel like divine law because we're all interacting with this third-party moral arbiter, and we must obey, thrive, or disobey and become invisible and fall into penalty. Okay, it's so transparent to me that this would take place in a generation where as much as 80% of the demographic self-labels as content creators. Meanwhile, platforms are putting up more hoops by the day for would-be creators to join, upload, and monetize.
The way that I think about it is all of these monetization models should be available to you depending on what your business objectives are and what they're not. You know, our North Star principle has always been give everyone a voice and show them the world.
I got my Google AdSense. I was on the verge of tears.
And in all of this, and I'm going to do air quotes here, verification just becomes a behavior as logical as standing in line to get your bread ticket, especially when the job market is dwindling faster than we've ever seen in human history. We will begin to thank those systems for identity, for security, for trust, for restoring our place on the internet and giving us a supposed safe space to be and exist. Gratitude will become reverence, reverence will become dependence, and dependence will become faith. When visibility becomes mandatory, the system that holds everything in its place becomes sacred. Do you see what I'm talking about here? This will happen within a single generation, a new faith formed. If you don't believe me, let's take a deeper look at how religions form in the first place, okay? And I'm not talking about a boring dive into history. I'm talking about the psychological mechanisms and sociological levers that pull the masses this way and that, okay? New religions don't just spring from the void. They build from older fragments, recombining traditions, ideas, and myths. Christianity didn't emerge ex nihilo, okay? It inherited Judaism, Hellenistic philosophy, and in some cases, pagan ritual. Islam woven scripture, prophets, and rituals from older faiths. Eastern faiths layered, merged, and diverged. Even secular ideologies borrowed religious structure. Marxism, though atheistic, mirrors a salvation narrative: fall, struggle, redemption, utopia. So before predicting what the next religion will look like, we must see the intellectual seeds already being planted. And the two that I see becoming the most ripe are objectivism and positivism. These philosophies will become the foundation for the next religion, and they're already here in mass. First, let's take a look at objectivism. Ayn Rand, the wonderful author of Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, right? She built a system that turns achievement into moral law.
Some people have strong opinions on objectivism. It's a philosophy that's controversial because it advocates selfishness and says altruism is evil.
More than philosophy, it's almost liturgy for the worthy, those who build, produce, and create. This idea is from the 1940s, but if we reread the words build, produce, create, while keeping in mind AI and content, etc., the picture becomes quite clear. So let's examine some of the core ideas behind objectivism and see how it relates to our modern world. Okay, you're talking about, number one, reality is independent of consciousness. Number two, reason is the only path to knowledge. Number three, rational self-interest is the highest virtue. And number four, capitalism is the only political system consistent with human dignity. On its face, objectivism offers a sacred justification for desire. In our world, this ethic maps nearly perfectly to the creator economy, the hustle culture, the cult of the 10x founder. Work becomes worship, growth becomes virtue. Damn, this sounds like something that could have been written yesterday for a modern audience. It fits perfectly. Objectivism offers meaning through achievement itself, not survival, but devotion to productivity. In these words, I see the emergence of a proto-scripture. It gestures at transcendence through self-actualization and self-interest. Moving on. Positivism holds that valid knowledge is empirically verified. Everything else, be it metaphysics, theology, speculation, it's just superstition, right? Auguste Comte, I don't know how to say his fucking name, envisioned a religion of humanity, temples dedicated to science, a calendar celebrating great scientists, a priesthood of experts guiding moral life. All right, in 2025, positivism is built into the machine, baby. It's baked into the cake. Algorithms, dashboards, KPIs, data, and modeling. They are all the lingua franca of our world. But here's the trick. Data doesn't just describe something, it prescribes a solution. If the model says X is safer, then do X. If the algorithm labels someone as risky, surveil them. The model doesn't just reflect reality, it shapes it. That is positivism's metamorphosis into a doctrine of data analytics. Together, if you combine these two things, objectivism and positivism, they form a strange hybrid, a worship of self mediated through data. Self-expression fused with metric worship. Quantification becomes spiritualized. This is the raw materials of something new, folks. Not fully formed yet, but active and very much alive. So, we've looked at 3 catalysts of how a new religion could come about, and we've looked at some of the philosophies and ideologies behind the types of ways of thinking that will become dominant in this new world. But what exactly is the shape of this new religion? What is it? Well, if objectivism sanctifies the self, and positivism sanctifies knowledge, the next religion will fuse them in a very weird way, because to live is no longer enough. You must prove you're living, and proof is only real when quantified. This sounds abstract. I know I have this character flaw where I talk in circles and probably use too many words, but stick with me here, okay? Because the rituals are already here. We've already begun performing the rites of this new religion. We just don't call them that. In Snapchat streaks, and in Fitbit step goals, and Instagram engagement, and ID checks, and the almighty blue check marks, I see our purity seals, public sacraments, and daily bread. The scripture is already here in dashboards and KPIs and engagement charts, sleep graphs, credit scores, reporting, notifications, okay? The priesthood already exists in coders and engineers and tech CEOs and data architects and moderators. And who needs 10 commandments when you can just have 5? Because in the age of what the fuck I'm talking about, efficiency and optimization is everything. So let's go ahead and cut it in half. Here's your 5 commandments for the new religion. Number 1, measure thyself. Number 2, optimize thyself. Number 3, authenticate everything. Number 4, achieve, achieve, achieve. And number 5, and perhaps the most important, share your data. All that's missing is an AI god that we can use to tie it all together and get behind. And part of all of this, at least to me, feels inevitable because historically speaking, every religion begins in fracture. The old gods lose power. Crisis calls for new meaning. Humans crave certainty when institutions crumble. The machine is precisely the authority we are trusting more and more and more with not just our data, but to help us make everyday decisions, and not just personally, but professionally. The only question here, guys, is what will be the catalyst and velocity of the evolution to move someone from user to believer? Faith in data won't feel like conversion. It will feel like correctness. Every emerging faith promises salvation. This one will promise optimized life, perfect health predictions, curated matches, DNA modification, the ghost of risk eliminated, all decisions given away. And why would you resist when compliance is so convenient?
We got a patron on Patreon. Julia L. Thank you for being a patron. Everybody else, I still love you guys. I love you more if you sign up at Patreon. All right. My editor Maxim has like 3 kids to feed. All right. We gotta, guys. Speaking of, I made it easy. Sign up right here. Also, I got merch. Sign up right here. It's good merch.